Welcome, everybody, to the Insights and Action podcast with Orange 142. Today, I am joined with Nicole Young of Group Number 8, a fantastic agency. And Nicole, I'd like to just start a little bit to learn about you and your agency.
Yeah, so I really am an agency girl through and through. Started my career off on the agency side at kind of the big shops, the Ogilvy's, the DDBs, the Sapiens, now Publicis of the world. And I kind of started group number 8, or I founded it really to kind of work with people that I've been so very fortunate to work with over the last 20, 25 years. I think everyone knows if you're in advertising or marketing, you're always doing a side hustle, if it's for extra money or it's a passion project. So it was really about bringing people that I've worked with and that I consider peers and colleagues the best of the best and who are just awesome, generally nice and cool people and seeing like what we can do together. And it kind of started off as like freelance and fractional. And then the more we started working together, we're like, oh, wow, we have like a really magic thing here because we've all have similar experiences. And this might have been someone I met in my 20s and now I'm in my 40s, but we still hold that same DNA and those values. We've learned over the years of like what we definitely want to cut out of our lives and what, we want to keep. So I think that's what's really formed number 8 at a level that's different than other agencies. I think when you're able to work in the campaigns that our team has worked on, which are like the Unilevers, the Procter and Gamble's, I'm trying to think of other, the Sonys, the best of the best in the industry in terms of branding and marketing. And you can bring those people together and have all those synergies and also have fun and know that you can banter and no feelings are going to get hurt and you just understand each other at like that core human level. I think that's what makes us definitely special.
That's awesome. I think agency world is a little unique in that sense that it's so relationship based. So as you go through your career, you meet these amazing, talented people. And so to hear that you eventually just went off and were like, hey, all these great people that I know, I'm gonna start an agency so I can actually start working with them. I mean, what other industry can you really truly do that in? So that's awesome.
Yeah. I mean, I definitely think we came together too. David Ogilvy had this no bullshit policy or no assholes policy. I'm not exactly sure how it went, but I do know like the older I get and my peers get, and as well as I call them kids, the Gen Zs that we're bringing in, they really just don't want to work with bullshit. They want to be real and transparent. And I think that's something that, as marketers and advertisers, we are selling at the end of the day. So is it that snakeskin on the hill person you want to be, or is it someone that you want to look at in the mirror every day when you're brushing your teeth and be like, yeah, I made the right decision and the right call for my client, not for my wallet. So it was important for me to work with those kind of people too, that are really giving advice, not for the benefit of our agency, but for the benefit of our clients.
That's awesome. And I know that group number 8 is built around the idea of collaboration between industry leaders and agency, technology, journalism, and entertainment, kind of like what we touched on here. How do you ensure that these diverse disciplines work together to create a cohesive and impactful brand strategy for clients?
Yeah, I think most of my experience is definitely the omnichannel and the 360. So there's always been an entertainment component or a PR component, which obviously crosses journalism in its own way, shape, and form. And then tech, I just got lucky that my parents gave birth to like, the year that like technology was starting to boom. So yay me. So yeah, it's just making sure that like, again, going back to that fundamental DNA of like just kind people at the end of the day, really realizing like our skill sets, how we can work best together and just blowing it out and realizing, oh shit, like I don't know what I'm talking about in this area. Like I need help or so and so is so much better at this. Like let's put them on. So I think it's just being really goes back to that open transparency thing that I mentioned before of just good humans working in a good, healthy environment. And for lack of better terms, I think we've all had some experiences that have been like FML. in our careers and just steering clear of that kind of bullshit for a lesser, nicer word to put it.
Yeah. And you've had this unique opportunity to have been a leader in the marketing space for a while. You lead your own agency now. Even before this, you were a fractional CMO, and so you've really done things on your own. And I guess I'm curious, Nicole, to you, what makes a good leader?
Oh gosh, I love this one because I think I'm still running into this with clients and just clients, but just across the board. I hear friends talking about it in their industries. And I think what really sets leaders apart is there's leaders and then there's titles. And there's a huge difference. And make no mistake about it, just because you have a C in front of your title does not make you a leader. I think that like true leaders and the way I kind of like to lead is like I really love to dig in and understand everyone I'm working with. I want to know what's your personal goals, what are your professional goals, what motivates you, what are your strengths and weaknesses. And I think some leaders come in and they're like, here's a SWOT. What is it? Well, that doesn't really give you like who the person is and what motivates them. So like knowing those like things and then also just really understanding how the puzzle of people fits together. I always look at it like I don't want 20 Tony Starks. If I'm Tony Stark, I don't need another 20 Tony Starks because Theranos is not going to go down unless the whole group of Avengers comes together. So I think it's really about bringing those puzzle pieces of your team members as a leader to understand like who fits where and making it work seamlessly and efficiently, but also in a way that motivates the people on your team to keep going and feel like they're worthy and it's okay that, like, someone might not know how to spell their own name, but they're, like, the best designer or that's something silly like that, but I think it's, like, those little things that really, like, make leaders versus titles, and then also too, I just think as leaders and in really any management role, it's about mentorship, and I think being open about mentorship in a way that we realize the food chain in the agency life, it's not always vertical and it's definitely shouldn't be linear as we move from organization to organization, but it's up, it's down, it's in circles, it's all around, and we're learning from each other. So really just keeping that like circle of knowledge. I'm getting mentored all the time from my Gen Z teammates on TikTok and everything else, as much as I'm mentoring them on like standard operating procedures and legal. So I think it's just really knowing that it's not a vertical, like, title, or a linear, like, I'm a president here, I'm jumping to a president job over there. I think that's just important to keep in mind, not just for leaders, but just going into your profession as well in marketing.
Yeah. And something I'm hearing a lot of, and I love this, is that you have approached your career with a lot of purpose. Everything it seems, I mean, I'm sure everybody makes mistakes as they go on and whatnot. That's inevitable. But a lot of what I'm hearing is wisdom coming from maybe mistakes or coming from being in this industry for a long time. Now, I guess I'm curious, how do you know when a role is right for you as a marketer, and how do you know when to walk away?
Yeah. I think this really comes down to, listen, we're not gonna just automatically come out of the womb and be confident, let alone be 20 and going into the
Mhm.
market space, super confident and bold, or even be someone at my level. I'm not always confident every day, but I think it's about trusting your gut and really taking a step back when you're getting that gut feeling like this isn't the right role, this isn't the right fit. Like take a few days, a few weeks, never more than a month. And just realize it's okay to walk away. Like if your instinct is telling you it's not a good fit, it's 100% not a good fit. And the only thing you're doing by staying there is you're in a wrong role. It's hindering your growth and your opportunities and your happiness. And I think the lesson is you need to be somewhere else where you can shine and make your mark and get passionate and grow and learn and work with others that really are driven by the same DNA. And then I think we talk about this all the time in our culture. And I don't know if it's ever going to be anyone's 100%. Because when you get let go or a role doesn't work out, you do kind of have that like, "Ooh, I just got kicked in the teeth." but leading isn't a failure at all. It's definitely a step towards aligning yourself to better opportunities. I think I can't remember which actress it was, one of the Golden Girls, which I love their advice, but she said it was rude. She's like, "I've been kicked a lot, but being kicked has boosted me." So really looking at it like that, like, "Oh, wow, I just got kicked in the ass, but like that shot me 2 blocks down the road to where I actually need to be." So just keeping in mind, like, trust your gut. And if it's not right, like, just peace out with it. I think I wish I would have been a little bit more bold in my career and those moves in the beginning and just had a little bit more self-worth, and I think that's something I still struggle with even well into my 40s.
Yeah. It I think that it's my belief that your gut is always talking to you. It's just a matter of whether you listen or not. And I know for me personally, I've gotten in stages of my career, I've really wanted something very badly. And so I ignored that gut feeling, when it's wrong. And I'm sure a lot of people listening can probably relate to that as well. So I guess my question for you is, Nicole, like, how do you develop the ability to listen to your gut?
Oh gosh, I think this is one of those things that I'm sure some spiritual leader could sum it up way more articulate than I can, but I think we know, like, that little voice keeps telling us this isn't a fit, this isn't a fit. I mean, if you're monkey minding and you're constantly thinking, what if, what if, what if? I always say if your thought in your head is like, what if? Then you need to get that what if out of your mind. That's not right. That's the red flag. And I do think the universe, it speaks to you and then it kind of hits you with pebbles. Like you might end up working with a jerk and then you're still at this job that you really don't want to be at a year later. And then they fire you because they restructured. And you're like, oh shit, that was the universe. It's like, here's the boulder. You weren't listening to your gut instinct. So I'm going to move you forward. And I do think that whole cycle discontinues. I mean, either you can listen to your gut or the universe is gonna put you where where it wants you to go.
Right. Yeah. And I want to talk a little bit about your agency here, Nicole. I know that you have worked across multiple industries and disciplines. And how do you ensure that Group Number 8, their brand strategies remain innovative and cutting edge, particularly in a very competitive market?
Yeah, I think this goes back to just embracing curiosity and continuously learning in your career. Always be willing to learn, keep learning, stay curious, be hungry, all the things, the buzzword, but really listening to that feedback. And again, seeking out those mentorships and those leaders and working with people that like push you to give those big ideas. I worked with a creative director once, and people tend to borrow people's ideas in the space. And he always used to say, like, I don't care if someone steals my idea because I'm an idea man at the end of the day. And I'm gonna come up with new and better ideas, so by all means, take them, and I really think when you go into it with that mentality of, "I'm always gonna come up with ideas, I just need to be in the right environment that fosters those," having the right leaders, having the right team members that really, like, understand your passion and pull it out of you and get you motivated to do things, and then I think too, just being open to your surroundings. I always say if I'm working on a brand, it doesn't matter if it's like draft beer at a dive bar or for Rolex watch.
Right.
There's someone in my immediate circle that's probably the demographic, whether it's a family member or a friend. So I always like to be open, like, what would so and so think of this idea? And sometimes they even call them. I mean, I'll call my friends and be like, what do you think of this? Because in my mind, you're my demographic. So I guess it's being open and really dialing into the pop culture and the landscape and never really taking your pulse off that. I think people that stay in agency life always have their pulse on that. So it doesn't really matter what client you have or what vertical, whether it's automotive or CPG or health, you understand what's going on in society and societal norms and what's happening in the landscape is really what pushes the levers for yes or no when you're making purchases.
Yeah. And I think as a marketer, you start to look at the world a little bit differently. You're not analyzing, like you'll see most people take things for what they are. And I've seen it in a lot of marketers as you get more entrenched in your world of marketing, you start to see like, why did that specific thing work? Or why would my friend like this specific thing? And I think your approach to always being curious for something like that is something that any marketer, whether they're creative or they're on the sales side like I am, or they're on the data side, should take into account, because there's this, it's like you said, it's changing all the time. Uh,
Yeah. I definitely think that's what keeps at least myself motivated, and I think like you and most people in this industry is it is constantly changing, and every year I'll try to push myself way out of my boundaries of comfort and learn something, whether it's super techie, and that's not always my role, but I'm like, I'm gonna get a blueprint meta certified this year, even though that's not my day-to-day job. I think it's good to keep your pulse on those things and keep your brain moving. What's wonderful about advertising and marketing is there is so much to learn, and there's so many aspects of it. And you might be awesome at one, but learn a little bit of that thing you're not so awesome at. I think that keeps us humble and modest too. And I think humility at the end of the day, it's just not in advertising, but in the landscape of 2024 is such an important quality to have as a person.
Absolutely. And things are just changing so fast. So those people that don't have that humility often get left behind. And so it's really refreshing to hear for somebody who is as experienced as you, continue to learn every day. And I think that's really cool. I think that's a lesson that anybody could take with them as they go further on in their careers. Nicole, this has been amazing. This is definitely the most passionate chat I've ever had about marketing. And you can really hear it in your voice. And so it's been awesome. Where can people find out more about you, Nicole? Where can people find out more about your agency?
Yeah. So Nicole Young, Nicole, Nicole, Young, opposite of old, dot co, and or group number 8 dot co, either one, or hit me up on LinkedIn. I'm pretty accessible. Send a carrier pigeon to my apartment down here in Florida, my workspace, wherever you try to reach me, I will respond. I think one of the great things about our field is keeping those connections and just fostering relationships with, if that's someone in college reaching out for advice, or that's a peer reaching out to just like vent or talk. But I think it's about staying passionate and making those bold moves and taking chances and listening to your gut. So, absolutely.
Awesome. And I will link all of those down in the show notes below so you guys can access them. Nicole, thank you so much for being on today.
Yeah, thanks for having me. I'm really excited to continue the conversation.
Definitely. All right. Have a good day.
All right.